on a freezing Chicago night. A simple act of kindness would unravel a 30-year mystery. When former President Barack Obama gave his coat to a shivering homeless girl outside a convenience store, he didn't know he was about to find what his family had been searching for since before his first campaign. He just knew something in her eyes seemed familiar. The Chicago wind howled through the streets like an angry wolf. Barack Obama sat behind the wheel of his black SUV, tired after another long charity event. He'd signed hundreds of books and met with community leaders at a South Side youth center, but something felt empty inside him tonight. Snow danced in his headlights as he drove through the quiet streets. The dashboard clock showed 11:43 p.m. And the temperature gauge read a bone-chilling 12 degrees. Barack turned up the heat and thought about heading home to his warm house. That's when he saw her, a small figure huddled against the wall of Sam's corner store, wearing only a thin jacket. Even from his car, Barack could see her shivering. She looked about 12 years old, with dark curly hair poking out from under a worn Cubs baseball cap. Barack's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He'd seen plenty of homeless people in Chicago, but something about this girl made his chest hurt. Maybe it was because she was so young, or maybe it was the way she tried to look brave even though she was shaking from the cold. He pulled into the store's parking lot. "Hey there," he called softly, stepping out of his car. The girl's head snapped up, her body tensing like she might run. "It's okay, I'm not going to hurt you." Her eyes met his, and Barack felt a strange jolt. Those eyes, they reminded him of someone, but he couldn't remember who. They were deep brown with little flecks of gold. Just like, the thought slipped away before he could grab it. "I'm fine, mister," the girl said, her teeth chattering. "Don't need anything." Barack smiled. He remembered being proud like that when he was young, never wanting to accept help. Without thinking twice, he took off his expensive cashmere coat. It was his favorite, a Christmas gift from his mother last year. "Take it," he said, holding it out. "Please." The girl stared at the coat, then at him. "Why?" "Because it's cold, and because somebody once told me that sometimes angels dress up like regular people to test our kindness." Barack grinned. "And I'd hate to fail an angel test." A tiny smile crept across her face. It transformed her whole appearance, making her look less like a scared street kid and more like. Barack's head started hurting as another almost memory slipped away. The girl reached out slowly and took the coat. It was huge on her, falling past her knees, but she wrapped it around herself like a blanket. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm Sarah." "Nice to meet you, Sarah." "I'm Barack." He paused. If she knew who he was, it might change everything. "I'm just someone who doesn't like seeing kids being cold." Sarah nodded, pulling the coat tighter. Her eyes were getting heavy. Barack could tell she was exhausted. "Is there somewhere safe you can go?" he asked. "A shelter maybe?" "Yeah, I know places." Sarah's voice was quiet but firm. She wasn't going to tell him more. Barack wanted to help her, to take her somewhere warm, but he knew pushing too hard might scare her away. Still, he couldn't just leave her. "Listen," he said, pulling out his wallet. "Take this too." He handed her several 20s. "Get something hot to eat, okay?" Sarah's eyes widened at the money. "I can't." "You can and you will," Barack said firmly. "Consider it a rental fee for the coat." That made her smile again, and there was that nagging feeling in Barack's mind. Why did her smile seem so familiar? "Stay safe, Sarah," he said, walking backward to his car. "Maybe I'll see you around." "Maybe," she answered, already looking warmer in the big coat. "Thank you, Angel." Barack drove home slowly, his thoughts spinning like the snowflakes outside. He couldn't shake the feeling that something important had just happened, but he didn't know what. In his heated garage, he sat in his car for a long time, thinking about Sarah's eyes and smile. They tugged at his memory like an old photograph he couldn't quite place. His head started aching again as he tried to remember. Walking into his empty house, Barack passed the wall of family photos he barely glanced at anymore. They were just part of the background of his life. But tonight, something made him stop. There in a faded picture from 30 years ago was his family, his mother, himself as a toddler, and the baby, the sister he'd lost, the one who was stolen from the hospital before they even got to take her home. He stared at the only photo they had of her, taken by a nurse just hours before she disappeared. The baby had been too young to see her eye color clearly, but in the picture, she had a hint of a smile that made his chest tight. Barack's hands started shaking as his tired mind tried to connect dots that seemed impossible. "No," he told himself, "don't go there, don't get your hopes up again." They'd been through this too many times over the years, thinking they'd found her only to have their hearts broken again. But as he climbed the stairs to his bedroom, Barack couldn't stop thinking about Sarah's eyes, her smile, the way she looked so familiar yet so strange. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling as snow fell outside his window. The wind howled like it was trying to tell him something, and somewhere in the city, a girl was sleeping in his coat. Sleep wouldn't come. Every time Barack closed his eyes, he saw Sarah's face mixed with memories of his lost sister. It was probably nothing, he told himself, just his tired mind playing tricks, just another false hope in a lifetime of searching. But what if? The question followed him into his dreams, where a baby's cry mixed with the howling wind, and a pair of brown eyes with golden flecks watched him from the shadows. Barack woke up gasping, his sheets tangled around him. The dream had felt so real, the baby's cry, those haunting eyes. Sunlight streamed through his window, but the memory of last night's encounter with Sarah still felt heavy in his chest. He reached for his phone and called the one person who would understand. "Mama," he said when she answered. "I need to talk about her." His mother's breath caught on the other end of the line. She knew exactly who he meant. They hadn't talked about his sister in months, but the pain in her voice was still fresh. "What brought this on, Barack?" she asked softly. Barack closed his eyes, remembering how it all began. "I met someone last night who reminded me of everything, and I can't stop thinking about that day." The memories flooded back as clear as if they'd happened yesterday instead of 30 years ago. He'd been just 2 years old when his baby sister was born. Barack remembered standing on his tiptoes by the hospital bed, peeking at the tiny bundle in his mother's arms. "Want to hold your sister?" his father had asked, lifting him up carefully. "My sister," little Barack had said proudly, looking down at the baby's face. Even then, he remembered those eyes brown with tiny golden specks that seemed to sparkle. They'd named her Joy because that's what she brought to their family. But their joy lasted less than 2 days. The nurse said she needed to check Joy's temperature, his mother said now, her voice cracking over the phone. She took her from my arms and walked out. We never saw either of them again. Barack got out of bed and walked to his home office, where he kept the old newspaper clippings. The headline screamed across decades: "Newborn stolen from Chicago hospital, Obama family offers reward for missing baby." 5 years later, the search for Joy Obama continues. The police tried everything, his mother continued, but the nurse used fake credentials. The security cameras weren't working that day. It was like she knew exactly how to disappear. Barack spread the articles across his desk. Each year on Joy's birthday, he'd done interviews hoping to keep her story alive. When he became famous, first as a senator and then as president, he used his platform to search for her. But every lead turned cold, every hope turned to dust. "I remember when I first ran for office," Barack said. "My first thought wasn't about winning. I thought, now everyone will know my name. Now maybe someone will come forward about Joy." His mother was quiet for a moment. "You never told me that before. I had this dream that she'd see me on TV and somehow just know she was my sister." Barack laughed sadly. "Sounds crazy now." "Not crazy," his mother said. "Hope isn't crazy, Barack." He thought about Sarah shivering in the cold last night. How many other lost girls were out there? How many families were missing pieces of their hearts? "Something happened last night, Mama," Barack said slowly. "I met this young girl." He told her about Sarah, about her eyes with the golden flecks, about the smile that seemed to reach into his memories. His mother listened without interrupting. "Barack," she said finally, her voice careful, "we've been through this before. Remember the girl in Detroit? And the teenager in Atlanta?" "I know, Mama. I know." Barack rubbed his tired eyes. Each false lead had felt like losing Joy all over again. The investigation had consumed their family for years. His mother had spent her savings on private detectives. Barack remembered coming home from school to find his mother crying over baby clothes she couldn't bear to pack away. "Sometimes I wonder if she's happy," his mother whispered, "wherever she is. Does she have enough to eat? Is someone taking care of her? Does she feel loved?" Barack thought about Sarah in his coat, alone in the cold Chicago night. "Mama, what if she's not okay? What if she needs us and we just don't know it?" "That's what keeps me awake at night," his mother admitted. But we can't save every lost girl, Barack. We tried that before, remember? He did remember. For years after Joy's kidnapping, his family had helped every homeless or troubled girl they could find, hoping each one might somehow lead them to their daughter. It had nearly broken them financially and emotionally. But Sarah's different, Barack insisted, though he couldn't explain why. There's something about her. Baby, I know you want to help her, his mother said gently, and you should. But don't confuse helping someone in need with finding joy. Your heart can't take another disappointment like that. Barack walked to his window, looking out at the snow-covered city. Somewhere out there, Sarah was wearing his coat. Somewhere out there, his sister was living a life they knew nothing about. I have to find her again, he said. Sarah, I mean. At least make sure she's safe. His mother sighed. Just be careful with your heart, Barack. And call me if you need me. After hanging up, Barack sat at his desk for a long time, staring at the old newspaper clippings. The baby in the hospital photo seemed to stare back at him with those memorable eyes, brown with golden flecks. He picked up his phone again and called his head of security. John, I need you to help me find someone. A homeless girl named Sarah, probably around 12 years old. She was at Sam's corner store last night. Of course, Mr. Obama. Any other details? Barack hesitated, looking at the hospital photo of Joy. Yes, he said finally. She's wearing my coat. Outside his window, the snow had stopped falling, but the questions in his heart were just beginning to swirl. He knew his mother was right, he shouldn't get his hopes up. But as he got dressed to begin the search, he couldn't shake the feeling that finding Sarah might be the most important thing he'd ever done. Even if she wasn't Joy. Even if this was just another dead end, he had to know. Because those eyes, that smile, they wouldn't let him rest until he found the truth. 3 days later, Barack sat in a hospital room, holding the hand of a sleeping girl. Sarah had been found in an abandoned warehouse, burning with fever from pneumonia. She still wore his coat, refusing to let the nurses take it even as they hooked her up to IVs and monitors. On the table beside them lay the test results that had changed everything: DNA proof that Sarah was indeed Joy Obama, the baby sister stolen from the hospital 30 years ago. The story had broken that morning. Former President Obama finds long-lost sister. Reporters camped outside the hospital, but Barack's security kept them at bay. This moment wasn't for the world, it was for a family finding its missing piece. His mother sat on the other side of the bed, softly humming a lullaby she'd once sung to baby Joy. His father stood by the window, still in shock that their decades-long search was finally over. Why do you think she kept running? Barack's father asked. All those foster homes, the streets. She didn't know she was running toward us, Barack answered. She just knew something was missing. Sarah Joy stirred in her sleep, her hand tightening around Barack's. The doctors said she would recover completely from the pneumonia. The years of neglect and malnutrition would take longer to heal, but they had time now, a lifetime. Barack looked down at the coat she still wore like armor. Such a simple thing to have brought them together, a coat on a cold night, an act of kindness to a stranger who wasn't really a stranger at all. When Sarah's eyes opened, they found his immediately. Those familiar eyes, brown with golden flecks, finally home where they belonged. Is it true? She whispered. Am I really? Yes, Barack said gently. You're Joy Obama. You're my sister. But I've been Sarah for so long. I don't know how to be Joy. Barack's mother leaned forward. You can be both, sweetheart. Sarah Joy Obama. You don't have to choose. Sarah Joy smiled then, the smile that had tugged at Barack's memory that first night. I kept dreaming about eyes like yours, she said to Barack's mother. And a song. There was always a song. As if on cue, his mother began to hum the lullaby again, and tears slipped down Sarah Joy's cheeks. I remember, she whispered. I remember you. Outside, snow began to fall again, just as it had on the night Barack gave his coat to a shivering girl. He hadn't known then that he was giving it to his sister, but something in his heart had recognized her. Now, watching Sarah Joy in their mother's embrace, Barack knew their family's 30-year winter was finally ending. Spring was coming at last. And it had all started with a coat on a cold Chicago night.